Here we go for week number 2. It is live with Friday Night Drive here on August 28th. We're not in October yet. We're thinking about October. We're not quite there yet. We've got a long way to go. And it's been a very strange night of football for sure. Not weather related, actual results on the field that have been interesting. And we'll break it all down as we go for the next hour and a half here. And we're going to be here on YouTube the whole time. And you can also listen to us over on 105.5 The Ticket if you're driving through the Kankakee area as well. My name is Matt Rodewald. Thanks for joining us. Steve Soucie is with us. He has been holed up watching football. Did you get a chance to get out at all? I was able to get out for a little bit.
I went across town for Kankakee Lincoln Way East this evening. So that turned out to be pretty intriguing as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that as we go throughout the evening. It was one of the more intriguing matchups we saw throughout the state. Let's start things off, though, Seuss, with Mount Carmel and spotting a 30-0 lead against St. Joe's and the Green Knights, and then coming back and winning, finishing the game off with a 48-44 win. I saw the tail end of it. I was out at a game, and everyone was abuzz at where I was about Mount Carmel getting their doors blown off, but it was not to be tonight. What did you see tonight from what you were able to pick of that game?
I only caught a last couple minutes of it, but I was kind of following along like everyone else was, trying to go with what was going on. And as you well know, TV games tend to take a little bit longer. So I was figuring on, well, they started at 6. My game started at 6. I figured, well, maybe I'd be able to, catch a little bit of the back end of it just because of the pacing. And all of a sudden, you just see St. Joe's Regional just stacking up points. What's going on here? And then right before half, Mount Carmel just kind of went on a flurry and got it back to within 2 points at halftime. The interesting thing about that, Brady Clarity, the player that came in last week, the backup quarterback for Mount Carmel after Ryder Starks went out with a collarbone injury, he threw 7 touchdown passes tonight. And a couple of them, I saw the highlight reels of them. They were pretty. So he seems to be embracing that role.
Yeah, and, when you have a quarterback like that can do some serious damage and do that quickly. This is the thing about the Mount Carmel offense. You just never know. We know there's talent all over that field, and they were staring at 0-2 after all of the accolades that, admittedly, you and I throwing flowers left and right at them throughout the summer. Yep. And maybe premature, and maybe something that Jordan Lynch would tell you, don't do that. My kids don't deserve that. Well, they do for tonight, and they do because they were able to rally and come back in that sort of fashion. It was very impressive to get a 48-44 win and to make sure that they don't go 0-2, because 1-1 feels different than 0-2, especially to a team like that has been so heavily touted and talked about all across the offseason for sure. We got a lot of finals already in the books, as you had mentioned, as well as a couple of games starting at 6 o'clock across the board. Looking at some of the scores that have come by here. Lincoln Way East, 22-14. Is that a final? Last I checked, I've got 22-14 late. So it is a final there. We have a lot of schools playing teams out of state. Loyola down at Cathedral. At the Butler Bowl, which is a great venue. If you haven't been there, it's a cool little venue down there. They were playing, and last check, it was a tight game there in that one. Don't have a score off the top of my head. They'll definitely have that as we go throughout the day. IC Catholic down at Illinois Wesleyan, taking it to St. Mary's Southside out of Missouri, 42-14. Nazareth 27-3 on York. These are games that are still listed in progress. Providence over Kenwood, 39-24, I believe that went final as well. So some games that, we have plenty of blowouts and some teams with some get-right games, I would say, at this point for sure.
Absolutely. There were some that were definitely sitting out there tonight that you were wondering what was kind of going on. Basically looking at, a lot of games out there, that I'm kind of interested in that are still going on. Wheaton, Warrenville South, I've got them leading Lions right now 9-7. I'm in that contest. That's one that I'm keeping a peek on. There are quite a few games out here that, once again, I'm looking at some of these scores on my board, and I can't read the scoreboards. So I'm kind of having to fill out what's going on. You and I are having that problem right now. The blurry scoreboards are back. Yep. So just kind of trying to filter through what's going on in some of these games. But I think there's definitely been a lot of results that have caused me to raise the eyebrow. The eyebrow has been wore out this evening.
Yes. I've been looking at Geneva, Oswego, and Huddle, and as much as I enjoy Huddle, It is hard to see the scoreboard sometimes. And sometimes I've noticed this, Seuss, at when you're streaming and looking at these games, it's fine during the day. It's when it gets at night and the lights start to get a little pixelated heavy and it's hard to really read them. So that's kind of more of a camera thing than it is the scoreboard thing for sure. And so that game, by the way, Geneva was trailing 28-13 early in the second half. And that got a little tight. So I don't have a score on that because I can't read the scoreboard, but it feels tight. It feels like Oswego still is in control of it for sure. A couple of finals let's pass along for you. Starting the Fun Valley Conference. Huntley, I don't think they've allowed a point this year. 56-0 over Crystal Lake Central. Burlington Central 41-7 over Crystal Lake South. Remember their win over Prairie Ridge? Well, it didn't happen this time. Addison Trail 20-6 over Bartlett. Wilmington 48-0 over Morrison, I should say. And Fenwick holding on against Oak Park River Forest, a final of 31-21. So a couple finals across the board there. What else we got here as we look up and down the board? We're getting them in as they go here. I mentioned Addison Trail for sure. Brother Rice, 69-0 over Woodlawn. Where else we got here? Oh, we got Camp Point Central with a tight one over Greenfield Northwestern. Camp Point Central, that's an important win for them, getting it 15-13 as we go down to Western Illinois early on in the scores. What are you looking at right now? It's jumping off the page for you as you're looking at the scores.
Well, let's circle back for 1 second to that Wilmington score that you read.
Yeah.
That's the 300th coaching victory in the career of Jeff Rentz. So that's a really notable accomplishment in Illinois history. I believe just over 10 coaches in Illinois history have amassed over 300 wins at Illinois schools. So quite the accomplishment for the veteran coach tonight.
Tip of the cap to him and his program. And I'll say he has had 2 assistants that have been there for 30 plus years as well. So it's like the 3 amigos that are there this whole time. And that staff continues its continuity. Congratulations on win number 300, really for all of them when you think about it. A couple more as we want to keep going here. St. Charles East is 2-0, boss. 35-14 over Highland Park. Keep an eye on the Saints. New Trier, 35-0 over Waubonsie Valley tonight to final there. A pair of 0-1 teams, Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge. Well, it's Cary Grove that gets the win. That means PR is now 0-2. Cary Grove, 25-12 the final there. Plainfield North shuts out Glenbard East. Interesting final there, a final of 21-0. And this is the one that shocked everybody tonight. It was a blowout at halftime. Rochester 44, Batavia 16. That is now a final. What in the world happened to the Battle in Drive 3-hour Bulldogs tonight? Good Lord.
Well, I can say from experience, because I've seen some games down at Rochester, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a different place to play a football game, but my goodness, it seems like Rochester gets something underneath those sails when they're on their home field. I've seen them play amazing football games on that surface. It must be something in the ground there because they defend. You talk about defending that turf. Rochester doesn't lose very often at home, but even so, I was astonished not only by that win, but the level of that win, because that was never close. That was quickly out of hand, and it never really got to a point where it was competitive.
Being on the Geneva sideline tonight and showing that score to people, it was a lot of this look. What? Shocking. That was very shocking because, one, that's the respect that Batavia has earned through, a win over Maine South, 49 points against that team. So it was easy to say that they were a favorite going down there, no matter what Rochester's resume has been, because that's the number one team, a unanimous number one selection in 7A. That was not the same team that showed up tonight, and it'll be a fascinating week of practice, as I believe they have Glenbard North next week. That's bad for the Panthers because that's gonna get the attention of the Battle and Bulldogs and Dennis Pearden's staff for sure. And I'm telling you, those guys are going to be on the bus, and those families are riding back now up I-55, listening to this in the car. They are not happy about that. And you know what? A lot of people said, well, Rochester had to play Batavia because they couldn't get anybody to play them. Well, it's going to get a lot harder now, in terms of the scheduling for sure. Because if that's the result with the number one team going down there 3 or 4 classes above you, then I don't know what they're going to have to deal with going forward with scheduling. So I'm concerned about that from the logistical standpoint. But let's congratulations to Rochester. That is a great win for that program to beat that team the way they did tonight. That was really, really impressive for sure. We also had
Absolutely.
somebody in the chat there talk about the chaos in the Duquesne there. I was going to get Matthew's thoughts on this. Souce, what do you think? With Batavia losing, Geneva's sort of struggling here against Oswego. That's a good Oswego team that's coming up there. This is not shocking to me right now, the way this one's going. St. Charles North is one of those teams where, I saw them play well against Minooka. I don't know what they're doing against South Elgin right now, but they haven't felt like a dominant team. I think Batavia is still a team beat in that league.
I think that's fair. I think the Duquesne is going to be like the Duquesne usually is. Mm-hmm. We're going to have weeks where all the games go in a different direction than we expected. I still feel like now, even looking at it now, it's realistic to think you might win this conference with 2 losses. I mean, it's possible. Like, I just think it's just one of those leagues where on a week-to-week basis, you're going to get a team that maybe you think is in the second grouping of those teams rise up and pick off somebody in the first. Somebody in the bottom group might rise up and pick off somebody in the middle. It's just going to be one of those things that just kind of it ebbs and flows.
Caught me mid-sip there. So 56-21, St. Charles North. They go up to South Elgin, which is just a really quick ride for them to get that win. So they're good for them, for St. Charles North and the North Stars, to come out with a win and taking advantage of what could be Batavia and Geneva stumbles tonight across the board. Looking at more scores here, just to mention some of the finals that we continue to keep an eye on across northern Illinois here. Let's go to the Nick 10 here. Harlem with a win over Belvedere tonight, 42-7. You had St. Bede over Bureau Valley, 28-14. Riverdale over Spring Valley Hall, 39-14. We mentioned Lincoln Way East and Kankakee. We're going to have more on that in just a second. 22-14 win. Big win for Bishop Mack on 105.5 The Ticket tonight over Herscher, 41-0. Herscher now dropping to 0-2 on the season. Princeton Tigers, they get a 49-14 win over Mercer County. Forston, 34. Seneca, 13. I believe Seneca now dropping to 0-2 on the year. Stockton with a 34-8 win over Blackhawk Warren out of Wisconsin. Any of those jump out to you when you look at those scores?
Not really. Kind of across the board, not big surprises there as far as what was expected. Yeah.
All right, let's start with some of our recaps here and check in with the Lincoln Way East game. You saw some of that for sure. Lincoln Way East and Kankakee. We had Adam Tomino who had a recap from that tonight.
This is Adam Tomino for Friday Night Drive from Kankakee, where Lincoln Way East has just taken down Kankakee 22-14. Special teams for the second week in a row were a big factor for Lincoln Way East. With Tommy McCracken, game-winning field goal last week. This week it was Jaden Cawthon with about a 70-yard punt return early in the fourth quarter. Put Lincoln Way East up 19-14 over Kankakee. McCracken hit another field goal late to make that 22-14, and that went on to be the final score. Another close game for the Griffins, though, but starting off 2-0 and looking to build from here. Well, Kankakee takes a loss after winning last week against Edwardsville. 2 hard-fought games for the K's against 2 A-Day opponents to start things off on the season.
What do you make of 2 things here? One, Lincoln Way East has a really reliable kicker. I think that's something that's really helpful, especially when you get deep into the season, and he's already getting tested early. But Kankakee has been a mess of a program this week as they've had issues with Coach Hazlitt getting suspended. We don't know that situation in depth really just yet. But when you lose leadership like that, it kind of throws the whole program into a frenzy here. And for them to lose tonight, not too much of a surprise. To keeping it close, that's not much of a surprise. But how do you think all this is going to affect them going forward here?
It's hard to tell. They showed a lot of resiliency tonight. That was a team that, I counted, I believe, 35 players in varsity uniform. And when you're challenging an 8A program like Lincoln Way East, where it tends to get crowded on their sideline, a lot of those kids from Kankakee were playing a lot of snaps, but they hung right in there. Were really kind of in it until Jay Cawthon broke that punt return, and that was a heck of a play. He broke a couple of tackles inside the 30 and willed himself into the end zone. It did not look like he was going to score. That was a heck of a play by him. And that kind of changed the momentum of it because it kind of felt like Kankakee had stolen it back and had it in their favor, but wasn't able to move the ball on that possession. And then when Lincoln Way East ran back that punt, they were able to kind of ratchet it down on defense and then just grind it out the last 6 or 7 minutes of that game. So had to work a little bit harder than I think maybe they anticipated that they had to, but definitely got the job done.
Lincoln Way East now with wins over Brother Rice, Kankakee. How good of a team are they in terms of your rankings at this point? These are two really good wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell right now, to be honest, where because it didn't feel like Lincoln Way East, and I think they would probably agree with this. It didn't feel like Lincoln Way East played very well tonight, but they did just enough to pull out of there with the victory. And sometimes that's got to be enough. There's not going to be I don't think there's going to be a lot of fireworks in Frankfurt this year, but I do think they'll probably figure out a way to stack quite a few wins again, because it's what they do. I mean, there were times in that game where I kind of felt like, boy, maybe this thing is swinging the other way, and Lincoln Way East just would come up with a play, make a play, just wouldn't let it happen.
Lincoln Way East 2-0, Kankakee now down to 1-1 on the year. Let's switch to the Fun Valley and check in at Rocket Hill with Burlington Central and Crystal Lake South. The Rockets are good. Their offense was quiet last week. 13 points against Dundee Crown on a Saturday afternoon, kind of a ho-hum win. Tonight, very different story in their home opener against the Gators of Crystal Lake South. Alex Kanteki's got the report.
Hello, everyone. Alex Kanteki here from Friday Night Drive in the Northwest Herald. Out here at Burlington Central, where the host Rockets dominated Crystal Lake South 41-7. Burlington Central moves to 2-0 overall, 2-0 in the FEC. They are the early leaders in the conference, while South suffers its first loss, dropping to 1-1 overall and 1-1 in the FEC. Big game for senior running back Parker Oxshire for the Rockets. He had 102 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, including a 25-yarder that gave him the hat trick. Another big play for the Rockets was a 70-yard punt return by Benatia, and then Jordan Coombs had a 25-plus yard touchdown reception from quarterback Reese Beamer. Just total domination here by the Rockets, who through 2 games, their starting defense has only allowed 3 points. Burlington next week goes to Cary Grove, where they try to move to 3-0 and pad their lead in the conference.
And so Burlington will go up to Cary Grove, where they've never won before, even though they've been in the conference now 6-7 years or so. The door's open for the Fun Valley. The Fox Valley is wide. Anybody wants it. The Central Rockets look like they're the team in charge of the league at this point, with the exception of the Huntley Red Raiders, who scored 800 touchdowns in these first 2 weeks, and so it seems.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's going to be a little bit chaotic, but that result tonight, I wasn't sure what to make of Burlington Central to start the season, because that Dundee Crown game kind of confused me a little bit. I felt like maybe they would get away from them a little bit easier than they did. But tonight they really kind of flexed their muscles, and I reluctantly put them on top of the pecking order after week 1. I'm going to confidently put them on top of the pecking order, I think, at the end of this week. So I feel a little bit better about them now after the way that they took care of Crystal Lake South tonight. Still like what Huntley's doing so far, but once again, you got to kind of look at who they've beat so far and wait for them, I think, a little bit farther down the line to get a true grade on where they're at right now as well.
Trying to get a score on Geneva and Oswego. All I know is it's just bonkers back and forth big plays. Geneva just ran a Philly special for a two-point conversion, and then immediately Banneray is awesome. I am so impressed with the Oswego running back. Just runs it back, basically, first play from scrimmage, and they go back and forth. Oswego's got a very good kicker tonight, and he has made sure to keep it away from Bennett Conkey. Is at maybe a return tonight. Not very different from what you saw against Libertyville tonight. This is a knockdown, drag-out, big play game, and there's a lot of points on the board. So curious to see when this does go final. They started 18 minutes late. I think this is going to go into the 10 o'clock hour for sure. What are you looking at right now in terms of scores? I've got a couple of finals for you if you'd like to hear. Johnsburg, 64-0 over Larkin. What do you got?
Lions just scored a touchdown against Wheaton Warrenville South just a few seconds ago. Receiver fought his way into the end zone from inside the 5. Nice play by him. So it looks like point pending here. Lions is up 13-9, and they are lining up for 2. So don't know how that play has materialized yet. The other ones
you're waiting.
look like the other screens that I had up look like they've pretty much gone final across the board. But yeah, so I haven't pulled up any other ones that are really running around. So that's where we're at right now.
We're going to take a break in about 10 minutes here, but until then, I have a couple of scores for you I want to pick your brain on. How about this? Lincoln Way Central 28, Barrington 14. That's a final on the road up in Barrington. What do you think of that?
Yeah, Lincoln Way Central got a couple of special teams plays early in the game, kind of setting the tone. And boy, that is a really nice bounce back after what happened to them last Saturday against Sacred Heart Griffin. That was definitely a game where you were looking at it and like you thinking, well, how do you regroup from that? And then they come back and get this big win against Barrington. Once again, it's another example of how difficult I think it's going to be in the Southwest Suburban Conference this year, because last I saw, Lincoln Way West was comfortably beating Peoria. I don't know if that held up. We talked about Homewood Flossmoor and what they did to Bolingbrook last week. Sandburg is currently leading Montini. This is what we're talking about. Lincoln Way East they beat Kankakee tonight, Brother Rice last week. This is a silly deep league. And I think
It really
you
is.
can stack them. You can stack them 1 through 6, I think, in a whole bunch of different directions, and I'd have a hard time arguing with any of them.
All right, so I'm so desperate to get scores from that game. I've got my 11-year-old daughter sending me updates at this point from the Geneva game. She's starting to pay attention from the middle school section, which is really impossible. Every parent's watching out there going, middle schoolers, they're just in their own world and in their own end. And I managed to get my 6th grade daughter to start paying attention to this game because the way this is going. So I know they're in the final 4 minutes of that one, and they're going back and forth. I think that Geneva has it down by a score or maybe down by 3 here. So it looks like they're trying to push here in the final 2 minutes or so. They're on the other side of midfield in Oswego territory, watching Ben Peterson trying to escape, and he will get sacked as Oswego's defense's pursuit has been really good throughout the night. A couple more I want to bring up here up in the Northern Lake County Conference. 2 teams that I'm curious about. Wakanda, you and I have talked about Wakanda, just the fact that they win early and they win a lot. And what are they going to do in the postseason is always the question. They get another one tonight and in blowout fashion, 56-25. But the Grant Bulldogs tonight might have had the most impressive win in the league, 41-14 over Glenbrook North tonight. So Grant is blowing some teams out. I don't know what to make of that league overall typically, but usually they have some talent up there. It's a matter of who's going to actually really take charge of that league. And Wakanda has been the dominant team in conference play. Can Grant get in there and make it interesting?
It's so hard to figure out this league, especially, their non-conference game choices sometimes don't really help in that, because maybe some teams are playing solid teams and other teams are not. And it's really, really hard to get a read until once they get into league play. It's kind of open. I think it's kind of open season in that league, usually behind Wakanda and Antioch. And then from there, how you sort out the rest of them is kind of, let's get out the dartboard, boys, and see what happens.
I forgot about Antioch, to be honest with you. We're just talking about they got a win tonight as well. And after a weird week last week, after dealing with the win over Schaumburg, but really kind of a cloud hovering over that one. We haven't talked about that in our shows yet. But the athlete that went down for Schaumburg, our thoughts are with the Saxons and the family of the athlete that was critically injured in that game. So, but when you see it, it certainly shocks you, and they've had to kind of go back to work from a football standpoint. I'm looking at Geneva. They just threw into Bennett Conkey 50 yards for a touchdown. So they're just going back and forth. And this is just nuts. I think Geneva takes the lead here. I've got the triple dots for my daughter. So I'm just trying to figure out if she's going to send me a picture of the scoreboard to tell me what's actually happening in that one for sure. We will, let's see, keep going in these scores here. And yeah, Antioch with a win over Lake Zurich tonight, 34-21. The Bears, 0-2. Kind of, it's a tough schedule, tough start, but to go 0 in a non-conference play is not good for the Bears up there in LZ.
Can we talk a crazy 2-0, Matt?
Yeah, what do you got?
Joliet Central
is
2-0. A 27-26 win over Bremen. Went into the research lab today, and this is what I came out with. For a while, Joliet Central and Joliet West were a combined program known as Joliet Township.
Right.
But if you just center out the Joliet Central years, I believe this is the first time Joliet Central has been 2-0 since 1962.
Wow. 1962. Yeah. Good
Yes.
Lord. That's great for those kids. That's awesome. And, you know, look, here's the thing. When you have a football team that's so bad for so long, there's no culture, there's no fun. You go into Monday and you're like, another day. This Monday is going to feel a little different in that building with definitely the football guys. And did Geneva just a recovered onside kick? There's a big pile. Hold on. But I want to get back to that. I'm watching this and wait for the no signal. Everyone's pointing. And Oswego has got the onside kick. So never mind. But 2-0 is different in today's day and age, Souce, because of the playoff setup. Is it not? Is that good enough for them to get in? Maybe one more?
I think they need one more. I'm convinced after the early data that's come in based on who's available, if you get 3 wins, you're going to be in. And it does not matter what your schedule is.
Right.
Now, 2 wins, you're going to need to put together a little bit of a schedule to ensure that you're in. I think we're going to have quite a few 2 wins too, but to make sure that you get in, you've got to play a pretty good schedule. And in the case of Joliet Central, they opened the season with 2 teams that were combined 0-18 last year. Right. So they're going to have a hard time, especially with inside of their conference, of accumulating many playoff points. So the only way that they're going to be assured of doing that is getting one more. And I think there's some opportunities out there. I'm not saying they're going to go into a lot of their games as the favorite all of a sudden, but there are a few of them out there remaining that I think they will have an opportunity to get number 3.
All right. So, at 2-0, we'll watch to see if they can get that elusive 3rd win. It was also 2-0. The Oaklawn Spartans fire up the bandwagon again. They got to win tonight one more time where they beat Wheeling last week in big-time fashion. Tonight they beat Thornridge 58-16. Boy, they could score some points. The green and white, no mercy for any other teams out there if they're going to
win. Boy, their non-conference scheduling, not to take anything away from the wins, has suited their program to get it going in the right direction. So, yeah.
Look, you got to learn how to win. Fine. I don't care. Yep. I think it's great. They started 6-0 last year. They've started 2-0 here. The more you do this, it doesn't matter who you play in the non-conference schedule. All of a sudden you feel in the back end of the season, you feel like you're in bigger games. That's the key, to be in that kind of big game atmosphere. All right, so Oswego with a 44-42 lead. My 11-year-old just sent me the score. I finally was able to get the score here. We're in the final 2 minutes of that game. Watching that one, they're trying to get timeouts. So that's why the onside kick made sense. Timeouts to try and get the ball back is not going to work because I believe there was a first down. So I think this should be enough here for Oswego to hold on to get a great win. Oswego getting Neuqua Valley and to go to 2-0 by beating Geneva on the road. That's impressive. Look, Oswego last year, you and I saw them a lot, and it was defense that really caught our attention with that team. This is a very balanced team that can throw the ball. They've got a tight end matchup problem, and their defense is able to make you one-dimensional, and that's what they were able to do tonight.
Yeah, and if they can do both of those things well over the course of the season, and you look at it when we get into the Southwest Prairie schedule, we're going to have some teams that I think will be able to throw the kitchen sink at them. I still believe in Bolingbrook. I believe that they will get there. They will be a dangerous team. Yorkville's out of the box at 2-0. They have a solid group of kids returning. Plainfield North is bouncing back. Apparently, yes. They're out 2-0 now as well.
That's a big win tonight.
I'm not sure what happened with Manuka. I know they were tied with Neuqua late in the game. I don't know how that played out.
I think they lost. I'm going to go check that. Yeah. And, we'll check that. Why don't we do that? Let's take a break and go through some more scores here. We also have a recap from Nazareth and York, so you're going to want to hear that. And we have a whole lot to go. Well, full hour, and then you take us deep into the night doing Steve Soucie things deep into the midnight hour, the witching hour for sure. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie, we are live with Friday Night Drive, week 2 here on Shaw Local.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
I'm Craig Wilcox. Illinois families are taxed enough. As your state senator, I voted against every tax hike Springfield has put in front of me. I fought wasteful spending, and I'll keep standing up to politicians who think the answer is taking more of your hard-earned money.
Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike, with dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country. We meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
Welcome back. It is week 2. We're live with Friday Night Drive. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie. Thank you for joining us if you're watching us on YouTube. Also, for those of you listening to us on 105.5 The Ticket out of the Kankakee area, that was able to listen in on Bishop Mack's win over Herscher tonight. A big one for Bishop Mack to get to 1-1 on the year. We're looking at scores. We're ready to get a lot of games going final. You are watching a bunch right now. We talked about Mount Carmel to start. We talked about Lincoln Way East. We talked about Rochester rolling over the Batavia Bulldogs. And we've been watching a wild one with Geneva and Oswego, courtesy of my 6th grade daughter, Skylar, who's been sending me score updates of that one. So we've been keeping an eye on everything tonight. What's jumping off the page at you right now, sir?
The Lions-Wheaton Warrenville South game is inside the last 2 minutes, it appears. Lions has just added a field goal, so now they lead that one 18-9 in that contest. So that's the one that I'm monitoring closely right now.
Okay, and as you do that, I'm going to go through a couple of finals. We'll get a recap of York and Nazareth here momentarily. We've got plenty of writers and reporters out at all of the games across the Chicagoland and Northern Illinois area. So some finals. Maybe I've mentioned a couple of these, so bear with me if it's worth repeating. Addison Trail over Bartlett tonight, 20-6. And Seuss, let's give it up for the Tomcats of East Aurora. A win over Fenton tonight. Looks like they got the win over the Bison in overtime. I don't know what they did last year in terms of wins, but getting a win for East Aurora is hard to come by. So they'll take it for them.
Yeah, they haven't had a lot of those recently. So that is, I believe they were 2-7 last year. So a good win for there. And that just got a final in that was pretty interesting. In terms of the Chicago Catholic League, it was close. It was back and forth. Fenwick ends up settling in with a 31-21 win over Oak Park River Forest tonight. That was a really competitive game the whole way. It was kind of going back and forth, back and forth. It looks like Fenwick finally got a hold of it in the fourth quarter, because I think the last I saw, that was where they were just trading the lead back and forth for much of the game. I would argue that's
good news for OPRF, Seuss.
Yeah. Another interesting one. We were talking about the Southwest Suburban and a team that I did not mention. Bradley Bourbonnais nips Thornwood tonight 13-12, which is a little bit surprising to me as well. Yeah.
A little closer than you would anticipate there. Revis getting a win over Morton tonight, 33-20. DeKalb a shutout win over Phillips, 49-0. Huntley 56-0 over Crystal Lake Central. We got Lake Park 41-6 over Glenbard South and the Raiders. Dundee Crown played well against the Central Rockets. They get a win tonight over McHenry, 22-15. Keep an eye on the Chargers. I want to see if they can make a playoff push this season for sure. Mattia Valley, they rebound after losing to St. Charles East with a 56-6 win over Plainfield Central. Naperville Central, 42-21 over Lockport, which means Lockport drops to 0-2 on the year. We'll get to Nazareth and York in just a second. You mentioned Fenwick. How about the Lisle Lions? We're just trying to see if they can play a season. They're 2-0. They got a win over St. Ed's tonight, 42-8. New Trier, a shutout win over Waubonsie Valley, 35-0. The Westmont Sentinels are 2-0. They got a 50-20 win over Gage Park tonight, and Wheaton North beats Stevenson, a final of 31-13. Let's switch over to Nazareth and go ahead.
Also, Matt, real quick, East St. Louis falls tonight, 35-28 to American Heritage out of Plantation, Florida.
Yeah, and that's going to be a very different team for East St. Louis after losing their star to a collarbone injury, the news we learned today. Nazareth's big win over York tonight. Good bounce back for the Roadrunners. Josh was there. He's got the recap for us.
This is Josh Willigan from Friday Night Drive for the final here at Nazareth Academy. Nazareth 27, York 3. For Nazareth, Charles Calhoun, their NIU recruit. He ran for a couple touchdowns and 84 yards. J.J. Chapman threw a touchdown pass to Jackson Flickinger, and Billy Harding kicked 2 field goals. But really the story of the game with Nazareth's defense, which was shredded for almost 500 yards of offense in a loss to IC Catholic in week 1. Did a great job. They forced 3 turnovers on downs after past midfield. They forced 2 turnovers, and they held York to 43 yards of rushing until the very last drive of the game. So again, good bounce back win for Nazareth. Again, the final score, Nazareth 27, York 3.
What do you make of what Josh had to report in that one tonight?
I was interested in this for a lot of reasons. An uncharacteristic performance, like Josh mentioned in the recap there, in a couple of different areas from Nazareth last week. Nice bounce back here against what I think is a pretty good York team. So looking at it just in general, definitely a situation where, Nazareth appears to have righted the ship, if you will. And that's important. I mean, for somebody like Nazareth, when you look at the green on paper, every time that you're in a conference game in the green, you're going to have a dogfight. And they've still got 3 of those plus crossovers. It really would not be very advantageous for Nazareth to be 0-2 coming out of the box before they even get into Catholic League play, which obviously is going to be extremely difficult. Now, we've obviously seen Nazareth do amazing things with less than spectacular records. I mean, they're the only team in state history to have won a state championship at this point with 5 losses. So that's one of those things that, will be, I don't know if it'll ever be repeated again. But regardless, don't want to be 0-2 starting your Catholic League campaign.
No.
Just not where you want to be.
If you're, especially with the talent that you're facing week in and week out. I mean, you laid it out perfectly, as to the magnitude of rebounding and getting a bounce back win tonight. Crete Monee, a shutout win over Hillcrest, 44-0. Evergreen Park put 63 on the board on Longwood, 63-6 the final there. TF South a winner tonight over in Hammond against Central, 42-13 the final. Homewood Flossmoor, how good are they? Have they allowed a point yet? Homewood Flossmoor with a shutout of Richards tonight, 35-0. Here's a score I find interesting. Canelan beat Lamont tonight, 17-10. And how about this score? When was the last time the Peoria Lions got shut out, Souce? Because Lincoln Way West did that tonight, 35-0 over Peoria Central.
Yeah, there's something going on with Peoria right now because I don't know how it came out, but the Richwoods team that beat Peoria last week was getting drubbed by Peoria Notre Dame. So I'm starting to think maybe Peoria's got some bigger issues right now than that we can't quite lean on past history to kind of say, Peoria will eventually get it figured out. I think there might be some larger problems going on there.
Keep an eye on that as we go throughout the season for sure. I think you're right. I think there are some deeper issues they've got to dig in there for them. For Providence, 39-24 win over Kenwood. Shepherd gets a win tonight in overtime over Bulls Academy, 7-6. And Tinley Park. Is Tinley Park? Well, no, they're 1-1, but 47-6 over the Romeoville Spartans, a final in that one. We've had a weird season so far in the Fun Valley Conference. Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge coming into this one. Both of them 0-1. Someone's got to go to 0-2. Who would it be? Joe was there tonight. He's got the recap.
Hey everyone, Joe Aguilar for Friday Night Drive out in Crystal Lake tonight at Prairie Ridge High School, where they debuted their new artificial turf. It looks outstanding, and it was an outstanding start for the home team, but it did not end so well for them. Cary Grove comes here after losing opening night and wins this one tonight by the final of 25-12. Again, it started out for Prairie Ridge. Owen Satterley, who got the start at quarterback, scored early in the game. They're up 6-0. They recover a fumble at the 25. A little later on in the first quarter, they fumbled it right back. So they had a chance there maybe to at least get some points. Didn't happen. And then Cary Grove got going. And actually, for the triple option offense, it was a passing play that really got him going. Jackson Barrett, the quarterback, big, strong Jackson Barrett, man, he got one out to Ty Teneper, and it went 37 yards for a touchdown. And then Barrett had a couple touchdown runs later in the game. And before you know it, Cary Grove was up big, and they not necessarily pulled away in this one, but they won it convincingly. Defensively, they were great tonight. Matthew Maka, the safety, with 2 interceptions. They had another interception. And Prairie Ridge now 0-2 for the first time since 2002. Cary Grove started 0-2 last year. They did okay. They won 9 in a row, went to the quarterfinals. So you never know, but especially with the playoff picture, going to be more wide open than ever this year. More teams in. Prairie Ridge, they'll be in the playoffs, but right now they're 0-2. They got to figure it out. So that's, again, the final line here tonight. Cary Grove beats Prairie Ridge. Final was 25-12.
What do you make of what's going on up there?
Yeah, I really can't. I can't make anything of it right now, to be honest with you. I'm completely trying to sort it all out right now, and it's definitely not something that is easily figured out. Let's put it that way.
There's a couple of scores we've been watching that have been interesting for sure, but give me a little Montini issue. The Broncos go down to Sandburg. Is that the score I see? 35-28?
That is correct. That's they headed into tonight tied with the longest standing current active winning streak, but that is now only owned by Byron. So Byron now moving on. They have now won 16 games in a row. That's the longest active winning streak in Illinois now. Montini was trying to tie them, but they come up short in a 35-28 loss to Sandburg. Something that, to be completely honest with you, doesn't really shock me all that much. I like this Sandburg team. I've been on board for a while now. It is a very big win for Seamus Murphy and his Sandburg crew, but I'm not necessarily all that shocked by it.
You and I liked them last year, and we were trying to stare down the barrel of an 8-0 matchup, if you and I recall, on that random Thursday night, and it didn't materialize. But so Sandburg's caught our attention in the past. So if they're going to do that again, this certainly does it. And congrats to the Eagles on getting that win tonight. Mantino 26-16 over Plano. You mentioned Byron, so going up to the Big Northern. Genoa Kingston 14-12 over Oregon. I thought they played okay against Dixon last week, and it turns into a win this week.
Yeah, and so I think there's going to be kind of a real mosh pit like in the middle of the Big Northern Conference. I can't get a good read right now on who will get clearance from that group. I think you've got 3 at the top, and then you've got a large group of teams that I think could finish anywhere between 4th and 8th in that league, and they might all end up being tied. So I think that's kind of, we'll see over the next few weeks if anybody can get themselves clear from that.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that as we go through the scores and continue on as we look across. Let's go to Western Illinois and kind of see some of those scores. I had a kind of a scoreagami for you. How about this? Pana 19, Southwestern 18. When was the last time you saw a 19-18 final?
Yeah, those are rare, that's for sure.
Kind of weird for sure. Elmwood Brimfield 22-8 over Rova. Carrollton a win over Unity Payson, 48-6. Rockridge, we got to go all the way back to Rockridge, 56-8 over Monmouth Roseville. What else do we have here? Oh, Newman goes down to Kewanee tonight, 17-10, the final there. Rochelle hung right with Geneseo, 26-21. Geneseo win tonight. You want to go back to the Kewanee score? What caught your attention there?
I mean, that just really surprises me. Kewanee, a program that has kind of struggled to get out of that bottom quadrant of the Three Rivers for a while. But I think what we're seeing this year is a restacking of like what's going on there. I mean, we had last week, we had Riverdale beating Princeton, which is a little bit of a surprise to me on paper. Riverdale won again this week. So maybe Riverdale's trying to make its case. And then a win like that, Kewanee over Sterling Newman, I wouldn't have predicted that, to be completely honest with you. That's like I said, there's a program right there that literally has been at the bottom of the Three Rivers for a couple of years now, and a really, really nice job of them getting that win tonight.
We will switch over to the Central Illinois region here momentarily. And yes, it was a final 44-42. Oswego defeats Geneva tonight over at Burgess Field. Want to check in on Yorkville and Joliet West tonight. The Yorkville Foxes trying to get a win over the Tigers. Bill Frescos was there. He's got a recap for us.
Alrighty, guys, we are final from Joliet West. It's going to be Yorkville 37, Joliet West 6. The story is in the scoreboard for this one, truly. It was never really much of a game. Yorkville went into half with a 22-0 lead, and Joliet West's only touchdown was a garbage time touchdown in one of their final drives. But anyways, yeah, Yorkville played really well on both sides of the ball. Defensively, especially, they tackled really, really well. I mean, I think they allowed 17 completions from Joliet West, but every single time West completed a short pass, Yorkville was there. They rallied the ball really well. They tackled well, and it just gave West fits because they couldn't move the chains. And West's defense was out there for a large portion of the game, and it weared them down toward the end. Another big storyline here was penalties. Joliet West had 11 penalties for 115 yards. Obviously, that's shooting yourself in the foot. But yeah, Yorkville had a really good game. The player of the game is going to be running back Gavin Geegan. He had 15 carries for 87 yards and 3 touchdowns, and probably could have added more, but they pulled him in the fourth quarter because there was a blowout at that point.
Business-like win for the Yorkville Foxes, but it certainly helps when you get 115 yards and penalties.
Yeah. I think that's a good, solid Yorkville team. They're not going to knock your socks off or anything, but it's an experienced team. They go about their business. They do what they're supposed to do. And, I think, what that will end up being is a team that ends up stacking quite a few wins, especially in these. I mean, this technically isn't a crossover game. This is a non-conference game, but they have typically gone against the teams in the other division of the Southwest Prairie and had no problem. They go and they take care of business and they get wins.
Let's talk about Central Illinois a little bit downstate. The guys from Iroquois West, they tag me every week. Thank you, Iroquois West Waiters. I need some gear behind me here in the studio. What do you think? We should get some Iroquois West gear. I mean, if I'm on your bandwagon, you should be up here for sure.
What you really need from Iroquois West is a pork chop sandwich, Matt. Yes. Outstanding. Top notch.
I can do that.
One of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Way to get me down there for sure. I love those guys. They got to win tonight, so they're 1-1 for sure.
Great experience.
It's a good experience. I like that. What else we got? We got GCMS. That's Gibson City. That's Melvin and it's Sibley, and it's a win over Ridgeview Lexington, 21-15. We mentioned Rochester's stunning 44-16 win over Batavia tonight. Arthur Lovington 42-13 over Sangamon Valley. Monticello a win over Unity tonight, 27-23. Central A&M 33-0 shutout over the Turks of Tremont. Tri-Valley, no problem with Leroy tonight, 35-0. Bloomington over Urbana, 46-0. DMAC goes down to Warrensburg Latham, 41-20. What else we got? Westville over Salt Fork. They double them up 28-14. Williamsville 45, Auburn 22. East Peoria over Lamphere tonight 47-27. MacArthur a win over Granite City. So that streak continues 50-7. Normal Community, no trouble with Manual 62-0 the final. And how about this one? Metamora beating Cahokia tonight. Metamora's had a weird week, a weird couple of weeks of games so far. 22-15 over Cahokia. Remember, last week they started their game at 10 p.m. They get it done by 10 p.m. this time.
Yeah, it's definitely been kind of an odd situation with them. Switching gears a little bit, maybe you said this and I missed it. Have you seen a Jacobs final from tonight?
I have not, so I will look for that one. I did see a couple finals I want to bring up real quick here. First off, let's talk about Morris and Coal City. Morris 28, Coal City 7. Morris is awfully good. We know that. But how good is this Morris Warrior team?
I think they're pretty darn good. I listened to a good chunk of this on the radio while I was watching the Kankakee game, so I didn't get the detail that maybe I would have, but it felt like that was a bit of a grind in terms of Morris kind of getting away from Coal City, and that's kind of what I expected. That's a really good Coal City team too. It's one of those things where you kind of look at it on paper, you see a 3-touchdown win, you think it was kind of a walk. It really wasn't. I mean, it was.
You can pull away late in those. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to get away from them, and I still think Coal City is a really, really good football team. I think this is a potential game that we might see again, maybe in the second or the third round of the 4A playoffs.
I had another score I want to bring up if I can find it really quick, and it was a surprise because the results a little bit. Darlington beats Lena Winslow 35-0. That means Lee Win is 0-2 for the first time since. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I have no idea. That's I got to get back in the research lab and see if I can unearth that stat too.
You have a different lab from where you are now that's a research lab?
Yes. Yeah, the research lab. It's downstairs.
You have another room for this?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I've dedicated
there's a lot of
place.
information, man. There's a lot of information. It can't all be contained in one room.
I just want to know if you're getting my bat signals on Twitter when we have a scheduling, when we have cancellations, and we need to schedule quickly. We need to get the team together because I'm telling you, this year we have to have the scheduling conference. We have to have the seminar.
Several teams beat your bat signal this week. I had already talked. By the time I saw your bat signal, I'd already talked to 3 schools.
Perfect. So, there's the Jacob score, by the way, 21-14 win tonight. So. All is well, I guess, in the Fun Valley up there. And Stark County, 25-18 over Farmington. Dwight, 12-6 over Chicago Christian tonight. So the Trojans get a big win tonight. The Central Comets out of Clifton. The Fighting I-57s beat Bismarck Henning 44-21. EPG goes to Charleston, by the way, and gets a 54-21 win. That's a nice small school, big school win.
Yeah, that's a good El Paso Gridley team. Kind of took Stockton to task, a away team that I think is really good last week. I know that things did not end the way that they wanted it to end last year when they ran into Wilmington, and that's a problem that everybody tends to have in the 2A field. But that's a really good El Paso Gridley team that was junior dominated last year. I think they're a very dangerous team we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you and I got to enjoy the EPG Wilmington experience, which was not a fun experience for EPG at all. Not by any means. That's a lot of fill time in the old NFHS network for me. That was not an enjoyable experience from that standpoint. Yeah. Let's see. Are there any scores that are jumping out to you right now as I'm scanning the whole state at this point? And I know we have more recaps coming in, so we're going to get to those. But what jumps off to you at this point? In terms of what we were seeing across the state, is there kind of a wide lens that you're seeing from all of this at this point?
Yeah, there's been a lot of games tonight. Like we've talked about a lot of them. By the way, that Lions Warrenville South game has a final that's 18-9 in favor of Lions, which is a nice win for Lions there, I think.
That's the score.
But now, so you look at. Yeah, that's definitely a strange one as well. But I mean, you're looking at once again, the West Suburban. There's a couple of games tomorrow, and I haven't seen everything, but it looks like York ends the string there tonight with their loss. But as of now, that's the only team in the West Suburban Silver that had lost a game. So there are some Saturday games tomorrow that come into play. But so that's definitely interesting. But so we just kind of sorting them out. I'm catching a lot of the scores now that were a little bit of a runaway. Here's one,
and I'm getting some downstate scores too. Go ahead.
Lake Park beating Glenbard South 41-6. I'm not necessarily shocked that Lake Park won that game, but that margin does surprise
me. By that much? Yeah. I would say that caught my attention too, just the score and the wide margin of it. Do we have a Dixon score out of Rockford Lutheran? I know that was on 95.1 WIXN that we had tonight over on Shaw radio station.
I have 68-16 Dixon on that one.
That's what we expected for sure in that one. Do we have? I have not seen Prospect and St. Lawrence. Is that one tonight?
That
That's
was
one
tonight. I saw a score really early on, but that was 3 hours ago.
See if I can find it real quick.
Yeah,
we'll keep going here as we go through the scores. And so, just again, what's interesting for me is just, when I sit back and go, well, what's the biggest win of the night? I mean, I think you can point to Rochester, no doubt about it. And whatever class they end up in, it's and I don't even know where they kind of land at this point. You know that off the top of your head more than I do, but that caught everyone's attention tonight. I don't care how good they are or how maybe we've seen those teams be really, really good. I don't know if this is one of those teams, but this is one of those wins tonight to take a Batavia behind the woodshed and take care of them like that.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was talking to somebody about this earlier this week with Decatur Eisenhower dropping out. Rochester doesn't have a game next week.
Right.
So they kind of come into this situation going, well, we want to put our best foot forward here because we don't get to play for 2 weeks after tonight. So, that was definitely, I don't know how big of a factor that was, but it was definitely like, well, we might as well empty out the kitchen sink because we're not playing again until week 4.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was actually talked about all week in a sense of you don't want to lose and have to sit on that for 2 weeks after losing at home to a team like that can throw the ball all over the field. So you better be ready to go. And so I don't know how the snowball happened, but it happens to everybody. It happened to Mount Carmel last week. This week it happens to Batavia. And I would still argue maybe the win of the night, just because of how it happened, it sounds like chalk, but Mount Carmel's win, the way they got it, is as impressive of a win we may see all season long. Trailing 30-0 in the first quarter and then rolling up 48 points on one of the best teams in the country, one of the top 25 teams in the nation. That is impressive. I don't care where they played that game, but there's a lot of pressure on that team. Then you add a 30-point deficit at the start. I don't know where these kids found it, but they found it, and they found it before halftime too. They didn't need a speech. They didn't have some sort of long talk about it. They didn't have a big meeting. They had to figure it out in the game in the first half, and they rallied. And boy, when you go into halftime down 30-28, you got to feel thankful that you're in that position. And they rolled in and they were able to survive and get a win at home. That might be one of the impressive wins we'll see all season, let alone, to me, the best win of the week across the board.
I just caught an interesting final here that we were talking about this a little bit earlier, how maybe you didn't want to be Glenbard North playing Batavia next week. Yep. I think maybe this Glenbard North team is going to go into that game with an awful lot of confidence. They beat Bennett tonight 49-7. So they're 2-0 now after beating a pretty good Wisconsin team in the first week of the season. Now kind of rolling Bennett tonight. I think that's a heck of a week 3 game we're waiting for here with Batavia going to Glenbard North in week 3.
We'll see about that. We got to take a quick time out here momentarily, but before we do that, did I see a Fisher score? The Bunnies 48-14 over Tri-County. James Russell had the comment in there. He was able to put that up for us. But I ask you, when was the last time the Fisher Bunnies were 2-0? Get on the Bunny bandwagon there.
Yeah, considering they've had a couple of years where they haven't even been able to get going, I'm sure it's been a little while since the carrot stickers were all over the back of the Fisher Bunny helmets.
I drove through there for the first time in June. I was coming back from the IHSA baseball state tournament, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to drive over there. And I tell you, I was very impressed with their facility. That football stadium's nice. There's room. It's right in the heart of town. It's not near the high school. I presume it's where the old high school was, but it is a community field, and everyone gathers there. And it's just, and in the summertime, no one's there on a Sunday. So I just drove around and looked at it and was like, this is awesome. This is great. So I imagine the atmosphere in that town is just going to be a lot of fun. And there's like maybe 2 bars. So I'm sure they're having a good time there tonight. So I'm sure they're open until at least 1 a.m. So good for them.
There you go.
But and Dennis Harding points out, we want to talk about this again real quick. Coach Reen's getting win number 300 tonight for Wilmington. Little history down there in Wilmington. They keep stacking wins. and 300's a big one. So for that coaching staff, congratulations and hats off to them. We'll take a timeout and we'll come back and continue on with our conversation, see if we get some more recaps coming in. Final half hour for the two of us, and Souce is going to do some math magic as we go into the evening hours and the overnight hours as he goes Souce After Dark. It's the Live with Friday Night Drive Week 2 program as we continue on here on Shaw Local.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
I'm Craig Wilcox. Illinois families are taxed enough. As your state senator, I voted against every tax hike Springfield has put in front of me. I fought wasteful spending, and I'll keep standing up to politicians who think the answer is taking more of your hard-earned money.
Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike, with dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country. We meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
Welcome back. It is week 2 of Live with Friday Night Drive. I'm Matt Rodewald. He's Steve Soucie. We're looking at the scores, and we're always looking for scores we don't have. Is there one you don't have that you're dying to get? I'll add one to the list. Prospect rolled up St. Lawrence tonight, 44-7. The Vikings are going backwards. That's not good. What's going on with the St. Lawrence program?
Well, I mean, they're 0-2 now after that somewhat surprising loss last week to King. King better team than I think a lot of people realize, but I wouldn't have bet on St. Lawrence getting beat by them to start the season. So now sitting at 0-2, and like we talked about before, it's pretty important for Catholic League teams to not do that. I mean, granted, St. Lawrence is not quite in the green division, but there's still several games in division. Those crossover games are difficult. Digging out of that 0-2 hole in the Catholic League is a lot harder than it is almost anywhere else.
Is St. Lawrence quickly becoming that team that you and I are not going to be able to like at 2-7 and making the quarterfinals? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Are we getting to that point yet?
Yeah. It could be one of those situations. There's definitely a problem that could be developing there. Yeah.
All right, we'll keep an eye on the scores, and you're going to keep an eye on your dogs barking. I got Fremd. Hello, Fremd. 35-21 over Glenbrook South tonight. Mentioned Elk Grove Village's shutout win over Leiden, a final of 28-0. Grace Lake North over Wheeling, 40-7. Hersey over Hoffman Estates, 42-6. Maine South, no problem with Warren tonight. A little lopsided for even my liking. 54-14, Warren goes down. What's going on with Warren there?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was a team that might have a little bit of a problem. I mean, just kind of getting going this year just because of the brutal nature of the start of their schedule. Not having, graduated some big guys last year and then going back-to-back Loyola, Maine South out of the box. That's gonna sting for just about anybody.
Sure is. Rolling Meadows 33-22 over Schaumburg and the Saxons tonight. How about the North Chicago Warhawks? A shutout victory over the Waukegan Bulldogs, 54-0. What else do we have here as we look downstate a little bit? You mentioned East Peoria or mentioned, Richwoods earlier. Let's see if I can find that score real quick just so we can share that. Richwoods went down to Peoria Notre Dame 55-7. And Mattoon over Rantoul 32-12. Prairie Central over Pontiac 20-16 tonight. St. Joe Ogden over PBL 52-14. Oakwood over Moments 55-0 the final score. By the way, Mount Zion got a forfeit win because of, I believe, the Decatur Eisenhower situation for sure.
Yes.
What else do we have that I haven't mentioned?
That's
yet?
a really
IBC,
good Oakwood team. you mentioned that score over Moments. That's a really good Oakwood team. I think this may be one of the best Oakwood teams they've ever had.
Interesting. Keep an eye on them. Tuscola 32-20 over Shelbyville, the final there. Switch back to Northern Illinois real quick to see if we can get some Nick 10 scores out of this as well. First off, the big Northern, Dupec tonight over Stillman Valley 48-10. They're liking the new league for sure. The Galena Pirates over East Dubuque, Southwestern, that's out of Wisconsin 41-14. Riverdale, you mentioned their win earlier, 39-14. Johnsburg with a shutout over Larkin, as we mentioned, 64-0. As heard on 105.5 The Ticket, Bishop Mack 41-0 over Herscher. Herscher now drops to 0-2. They've got some work to do, and it's not going to be an easy road for them the rest of the way.
Yeah, going into the Illinois Central 8, you've got multiple teams in there that are a problem. Coal City, Wilmington, obviously at the top, but solid starts for teams like Mantino and Piatone right on top of that. So, and then even Lyle at 2-0 now out of the box. That's another team in the Illinois Central 8. So you've got quite a few teams in that league that are trying to climb that ladder, and it's not very easy to climb that ladder in that league. So every week I think right now is looking like a game where you got to be ready to bring it there, because that league is looking like it's going to be a lot deeper than maybe originally anticipated.
Looking in Western Illinois here. Excuse me here. Illini West over United out of Monmouth, 38-24. Pleasant Plains taking out the Pretzels, 40-7. And we mentioned the Squirigami Pano with a 19-18 win over Southwestern. Carrollton, a 48-6 win over Unity Payson. Galesburg, the Streaks, 47-13 over Limestone. Calhoun, 54-7 over Beardstown. Any of those jump out to you? Looks like chalk at this point.
Yeah, I think those are pretty chalky. There is one game out there that I'm interested in. I have not seen a final on it. Evanston and Palatine. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one, and keep an eye on that one. See if I can use the old interwebs to find that real quick for us, as we've been trying to get as many as we can. Haven't seen that one cross. What did cross, though, Hinsdale Central 35-14 over West Aurora. I don't know what to make of that game in particular, but Hinsdale Central always intrigues me this time of year because you wonder what they're going to actually be like. They made some noise in the postseason last year. That was nice to see. Can they do it again?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is something maybe that they can do. I just came across a score that is interesting because a relatively long losing streak has been snapped. Harvard with a 29-21 win over Bigfoot tonight out of Wisconsin.
Harvard Horn. Oh, they took out the rival up the street there. The Bigfoot, Wisconsin's right across the border there. Harvard Hornets, big win. There's going to be a lot of buzz in town after that football win for sure. Yeah, I did it. We do have the Evanston score, 14-13. The Wildcats over Palatine tonight. How about that?
That is what I saw, and I wanted to see if that was confirmed because I saw that it was late in the game, and I just wanted to see if that was the case. But nice win for Evanston there. They're granted they beat probably an undermanned Phillips team in week 1, but they're out of the box at 2-0, which is something that I wouldn't have seen coming.
Yeah, and DeKalb beat Phillips tonight in a get-right game in a big-time fashion for sure. How about some neighborly matchups? Streeter beat Ottawa tonight. That's interesting. 41-36. What do you make of that?
The Ottawa must have really came back in that one because I saw Streeter was up by a lot early in that game, so they must have made that interesting late in that contest.
Saw Sycamore beat Moline tonight, 38-22. The Spartans now 2-0. Good start for their new head coach, I would say, to beat DeKalb and hold on late, and then to kind of hold off a Moline team that was on the come for them.
Well, and that's an impressive win because if you look back to last week, Moline gave Rochester pretty much all they wanted for most of that game back in week 1. So that even though that Moline team sits at 0-2, I think that's a good Moline football team based on what we learned tonight.
And I think the Western Big Six is kind of wide open this year. I'm not sure how Quincy is going to be able to do. Last couple of years they've had a lot of talent. Did they graduate a lot of that? What do they have coming? So there's a question there for sure. Digging around some scores.
Geneseo, though. Nice win for Geneseo tonight out of the Western Big Six over Rochelle.
By the way, I want those two teams playing every year. I don't care if they got to figure out. every time they play, it's a magnificent environment. They played in the postseason. That was a bonkers game in the postseason, by the way. And I think it came down to a game-winning field goal late. I think Rochelle may have blown a lead in that one. But when those two teams get together, it feels like the old days for sure. And I think that they're still in the same level where they can play each other and be competitive each and every year. And that's good for both towns, I think. So I hope those two teams figure out a way to play each and every year. Coming back to the Southwest Prairie real quick. Oswego East over Willowbrook, 22-14. Plainfield South getting a win over Andrew tonight, 38-23. Those are two big playoff point wins for the Southwest Prairie, I would say.
Yeah, that's a really nice start for Plainfield South. New coach there as well. Picking up the 1-point win over Pekin in the first week and then coming back and getting this win over Andrew, who I thought picked up a pretty solid win last week when they beat Oak Forest. So really nice start for the Cougars.
You want a 2-0 team that's fun to keep an eye on, and maybe they do something, maybe they don't. Your Round Lake Panthers are 2-0. They beat Streamwood tonight, 28-27. I thought that was a matchup of two 1-0 teams. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I laugh because that doesn't happen very often. I'm not making fun of those two schools.
The research lab might have to do some research on Round Lake too, because I can't recall that being 2-0 for a while either.
Okay, that's fine and all, but how many interns are you going to be having working in the research lab this week? Because that's a lot of work. Okay, you're putting it together.
I don't have,
do they get a full half-hour lunch?
I don't have any interns.
No, you don't have,
I don't have any interns. I don't have any 11-year-old daughters feeding me information.
She's feeding me scores. I got the other one turning the lights on here in the building and getting the set, and he's handing me pens and getting me, here's my notebook. Can you get me some water? Thanks. I mean, this is why you have children. You put them to work, right? Every parent would say that. All right, we talked about Montini and Sandburg earlier, and this is one that caught everyone's attention. Sandburg beating Montini, and which means the longest winning streak active belongs to Byron. So let's get the recap. Russ Hodges was there.
Hey everybody, Russ Hodges with Shaw Local Friday Night Drive. I'm wrapping up here in Orland Park this evening. The final score of tonight's football game between Montini and Sandburg. The Eagles knocking off the Broncos at home, 35-28. Montini came in as two-time defending state champions. The longest active winning streak in the CCL at 25 games. That is no more. Sandburg coming away with the win. The Eagles led 21-7 at halftime. Took advantage of two Montini fumbles in the first half. Sandburg also blocked a field goal in the second half and really ran the ball well tonight. 222 rushing yards for the team. Here are some of the big stats from tonight's game. Israel Abrams, the 5-star quarterback recruit for Montini. He's heading to the University of Miami. 233 passing yards and 3 total touchdowns for him. Did have a fumble in the first half, but he threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for 1 as well. Had a 49-yard touchdown pass to Demasio Ortegon near the end of the fourth quarter. That gave Montini a little bit of life, but Montini just out of sync offensively in the first half. Again, a couple fumbles that proved very costly. Those led directly to touchdowns for Sandburg. Meanwhile, the Eagles, Sean Ruse, the quarterback, didn't play last week because of a shoulder injury. Returned tonight, threw for 234 yards and a touchdown. Also ran the ball for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns. So a huge night for Sean Ruse and Sandburg beating Montini, 35-28 the final score. Appreciate you all following me on Twitter and social media at Russell J. Hodges. I'll have the full game recap article posted in a few hours. And be sure to follow us on Twitter and social media at Friday Night Drive for all of our CCL and Illinois high school football coverage.
Dude gets his plugs in. Thanks to Russ on that for sure. Turnovers, the bugaboo. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you turn the ball over, it's not going to go well. And Montini found that out tonight. And Sandburg, the quarterback issue, I guess, in some ways, a good problem. Last week they had an injury situation where it worked out well for them. So interesting to see what's going on with the Sandburg Eagles in this week 2 setup here.
I really enjoyed Sean Ruiz last year, especially seeing him in that Lincoln Way East game where, I mean, the best way that I can describe that kid's performance was guts. Just went in and just went in hard and just attacked that game. I was interested to see when he would come back and make an impact for Sandburg. Obviously that happened tonight. So he's a really nice player. I like him a lot. And like I told you before, when we were talking about this game, surprised but not surprised. I think that Sandburg team's really good. It's one of those things where I think ultimately Sandburg's going to lose some games, but I think ultimately almost everybody in the Southwest Suburban is going to lose some games, because that's what's going to happen in that league. There are far too many good football teams in that league to get through unscathed, but Sandburg has I think has the chops to compete with almost any team in that league.
Yeah, I mean, that's as impressive a win as we've seen across Illinois tonight. Sandburg, Rochester, Mount Carmel. And the reason I still lean on Mount Carmel is because they had given up 58 straight unanswered points until they finally figured out how to play football again. And they got a win over St. Joe's tonight, 48-44. We also saw a wild one with Oswego and Geneva. No, this is not my daughter's recap. This is Matt McGowan's recap from Burgess Field.
Hi, it's Matt McGowan of Shaw Media. I'm here at Geneva High School, where Oswego just beat Geneva 44-42. This is an offensive shootout where Geneva just ran out of time. Bennett Conkey, after 3 touchdowns in week 1, somehow did even better week 2. He has 4 touchdowns, not to mention a pass on a 2-point conversion for a score. The Vikings just ran out of time. The Panthers, Amar Bateri, had a clutch 52-yard touchdown run to seal the game. And not to mention tight end Ryan Wynn, 3 touchdowns of his own. So just a complete offensive shootout. Geneva held up against the 8A state runners-up. A test for the Vikings, but they held their own.
First off, a clerical question for you, logistical question, Souce. How do you pronounce Amar's last name? The running back for Oswego. I've heard 3 different pronunciations.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to make a mistake here, so I'm going to go with I'm not sure. That's going to be my answer.
I heard Banneray tonight, and I heard no complaints on the opposite side. So I don't know. So research department, get that going this week. Just add it to the list for sure. A wild matchup back and forth. And I like what he said about Geneva running out of time, because it took them a while to get going. And you could see late in the second half, as we're watching this online, that they were starting to get some big chunk plays, big time plays. It's a dangerous offense with Geneva. And this is what Oswego did that other teams are going to have to do. Just bottle up Bennett Conkey as much as you can and just hold on for dear life, because that Geneva offense is going to wake up at some point, and hopefully they just run out of time.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the way you got to attack it, because he's a load, but if you let everyone else get in there too, it becomes a little bit too much to deal with. So, do what you can, but it looks like there's going to be quite a few of these games, especially in the Duquesne, where it's going to feel like a ping pong, match where it's just bang, 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 back and forth, because there are too many weapons on both sides to have great expectations of the defense keeping everything in check for any more than maybe a couple of drives.
A couple of kids that caught my eye tonight, just watching Kleinhans, the quarterback for Oswego. I mean, all the attention is to your Division I running back, but that is a tough quarterback back there who can make the throws, and it's a balanced attack, which makes them even more dangerous, which is why I think Oswego is a threat to get to the Final Four at the very least back in 8A once again. But Ryan Wynn caught my attention. He's their tight end, who is a matchup nightmare. And if you get third and medium, that is not going to be fun for a linebacker to try and get him down the seam. I mean, he's got that Gronk, that Colston Loveland type, body type for the high school level. I'm not saying NFL. I'm saying for the high school level, you can see it on the field. Like, he's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. So keep that in mind. If your coaches up in the Southwest Prairie, that is what caught my eye today. We got one more recap for you. We got Morris and Coal City. Saeed was there. Saeed Bravo. He's got the recap from the rivalry matchup.
Saeed Bravo of Shaw Local coming to you from Coal City, where the Morris Warriors just came in and took down the Coal City Coalers 28-7. This one will be remembered largely as a blowout, even though it didn't really feel like it in the first half. Morris only led 14-7, and this one was largely broken loose by Marion Persich, the quarterback for Morris. His ability to run, he broke out for a couple big rushing touchdowns in the second half, one of which effectively closed out this game early in the fourth quarter. And this one was obviously helped by Morris's defense that did a really impressive job, including a really impressive interception on what ended up being an attempted trick play in the second half. Also helped seal this game, as well as a fourth quarter game kind of deciding stop at Morris's 1 or 2 yard line that basically ended any threat of Coal City. So this game really ended up being balanced by both teams, even though Coach Alan Thorson told me that he feels like they left a couple points on the board. So really good game here by Morris, and we'll see how things continue to evolve for both teams. Morris advances to 2-0, while Coal City 1-1 on the season.
Morris's schedule in front of me, but this is a good win in a sense for Morris with the way I liked how the Alan Thorson comments. If you leave points on the board, what do you think film's going to be like on Monday? Not great. They're not going to feel like a 28-7 win. I can tell you that. That's going to be a tricky week of practice that gets them ready to go for Friday night once again.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's, Morris, talking to Alan Thorson a little bit before the season, he knew that he had a pretty good team that he was sending out there, but he also knew that this schedule has some landmines in it. So if his team doesn't come, potentially ready every week, granted, so far it hasn't looked like they've been really pushed, but Lamont probably ends up being a pretty decent team by the end of the year. This Coal City team is a good football team. They've got Simeon next week before they go into their conference schedule. There's some good teams in there too. So just kind of keeping Morris on task and making sure that, even if they are putting up these big stat numbers, they, just maintain and stay on course, because, they all know in the back of their mind, ultimately what's probably going to happen down the line. It's no secret. Montini's probably going to be waiting for him at some point in time in the north side of the 4A bracket. But making sure that you don't put the proverbial cart in front of the horse, getting through this schedule and keeping their eyes on the prize, I think is the big challenge for Morris.
Wide lens view real quick. Morris going to Coal City. You've lived down in that area for a long time. I know that doesn't happen very often, or it hasn't happened very often. What could have that been like tonight, just leading into that atmosphere?
It had to have been, kind of enjoyable, heading into that situation. The two towns are 12 miles apart. You can get there, in less than 15 minutes if you hit the traffic lights right.
You do it right. Yes.
So it's like that's really what it comes down to. So and they're both kind of ingrained in being, in their football programs. Both of those communities take a lot of pride in that. So it's one of those games, not unlike the Wilmington Coal City game that we don't get until week 9, that that both of those communities kind of will hang their hat on, because those people in those towns interact with each other on a somewhat regular basis. So they know each other, and it gives them bragging rights in that type of situation. I'm sure there are people lined up on both sides that know each other in other capacities as well, other than outside of the football field. So always interesting to see how those matchups play out.
I want to go back to the northern suburbs real quick and mention, we talked about Grant briefly to say, hey, they might be pretty good. I did not realize they lost to Mundelein last week. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes.
And so, and they were putting – the Mundelein Mustangs were putting a hurting on Grays Lake Central tonight, last check, 33-7. That was it. The last score I had was going into the fourth quarter. Are we looking at a Mundelein team that's 2-0 as well, and in a conference that I'm going, I don't know what Lake Zurich's got. I don't know what Warren has. I don't know if Stevenson's any good. At some point, we've got to see Mundelein break through. We've seen them go to 4-5 and 3-6, and now with the playoff setup, let's see if we can get them in week 10. How about that?
Yeah, that's what you start to look at those programs. And I'll be the first one to admit I do this. There are teams that I put on the board at the beginning of the year in the old playoff system that I know I'm not going to pay that much attention to. I know that I'm not, because I know ultimately where they're probably going to end up. Sometimes those teams wake me up and they cause me to pay more attention to them. But in this system, I'm paying attention to everybody. I have to, because, I'm going to forget in 3 weeks that one of these teams started 2-0 after they go into a little bit of a slide. In the past, that would be, okay, we're done. Okay, this is over with now. It's not the case anymore. So you have to keep in mind everybody. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, that I mean everybody. I mean, there could be teams that are sitting at 0-6 that I'm still actively paying attention
to because
I know that there are 2 games on the back end of their schedule that maybe that they can get, or that maybe as that 0-6 team, they can jump up and grab a 2-4 team and potentially wound their chances. So I've got to pay attention to everybody now. And in the past, there would be 50 or 75 teams by week 5 or week 6 that I was fundamentally not paying any more attention to because I didn't have to. That was just
week 7. Week 7 is going to be so weird when we get there. I don't want to think about how angry I'm going to be at certain teams going 1-6 and we're going to talk about playoffs. Stop it. David Sura, by the way, got his 250th win tonight. And as I empty the notebook, the Crosstown Downers Grove matchup, North by a landslide, 45-7 over Downers Grove South tonight. So that was a final that I wanted to get in there as well. Aurora Christian over Elgin, 49-0. The win, not surprising, the lopsided score between those 2 schools. Yeah, that shouldn't happen, but it did.
Yeah, that's what we talked about it a little bit last week, when you have the wild disparity in enrollment between maybe 2 schools, and you don't usually see those teams pairing up. In this situation, Elgin, a struggling program, has been struggling for a while. Yeah. I would expect Aurora Christian to win that football game, but boy, when you look at the enrollment disparity on paper, you're honestly surprised that the gap is that wide.
The Upstate 8 weirdness just continues. A couple of big ones tomorrow. Can we talk about those real quick before we wrap up here? SHG at Joliet Catholic. I don't know what to make of either of those 2 teams at this point. Your thoughts?
Rather heroic win for Sacred Heart Griffin in the first week of the season. Scored a touchdown with, I believe, 10.4 seconds left, and it was a heck of a play to edge Lincoln Way Central. And I was listening to that game. I was listening to a Springfield broadcast of that game while I was watching something else on Saturday. And I just remember thinking, this game's over. Why am I still listening to it? And I'm glad that I did. I stayed with it until the end. So, definitely a good finish for them. Joliet Catholic got beat by Fenwick in week 1, but I felt like they put a good accounting for themselves there. So, this is an interesting game. I think Sacred Heart Griffin's a good team. I'd be really surprised if Joliet Catholic fell to 0-2, but it's one of those things where, that may be the way that this plays out, but a good football game, just a good, solid game. These were the kind of games that when we opened up the playoff system, I wasn't particularly happy about that, but I hoped it would create matchups like this, where 2 programs that typically probably wouldn't play this game in an old scenario now have an opportunity to be a little bit more open to the possibility of playing them.
Let's see it. And that's exactly what we're going to get tomorrow at Joliet Memorial Stadium. That's a 7:30 kickoff in the afternoon at Dushan Field. It should be a lovely day with some sprinkles. Glenbard West officials are probably not thrilled about what that could do to the turf early on in the season, but St. Rita going into town, into Glen Ellen there on a potentially beautiful day. How badly do they need to get that win there? That is going to be a dogfight for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty important. That's where I'll be tomorrow afternoon. I'm heading up to Dushan to catch that one. So looking forward to that. That should be a very interesting game. Both ways. I really, really like what Glenbard West has. But this is the kind of plant your flag win that I think Glenbard West, maybe, I don't know if they need it, but boy, it would be nice for them to have.
It would catch a lot of attention.
Yeah. So, that's one of those things. And, it's not quite the Catholic League, but let's be honest here. The West Suburban Silver is pretty close. And on a week-to-week basis, and you look at what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the show, maybe Oak Park River Forest wants to come into this party. Maybe they want to make their presence known. So, I mean, if that happens, then, I mean, we're looking at an even deeper league. I mean, I think Hinsdale Central has made strides in getting back into that conversation over the past few years. Downers Grove North is obviously still good. York stinging a little bit from the loss tonight, but I'm not going to discount them. So, once again, you're lining up that, that gauntlet that you have to run where, like I said, not quite the Chicago Catholic League, but it's worthy
It's a
of
good
being
league
around that conversation.
We'll get an idea for sure as we have tomorrow, St. Rita and Glenbard West. Seuss, that wraps it up for me. You will continue on the YouTube, but for everyone listening over on 105.5 The Ticket, that will do it for our portion of the show. He's Steve Soucie. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you and I will be taping on Monday on YouTube as we look at Inside the Huddle as we recap week number 2. Good night, everyone.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
I'm Craig Wilcox. Illinois families are taxed enough. As your state senator, I voted against every tax hike Springfield has put in front of me. I fought wasteful spending, and I'll keep standing up to politicians who think the answer is taking more of your hard-earned money.
Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike, with dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country. We meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
All right, guys, back to start breaking down what happened here in week 2. I have been able to get quite a few scores in tonight. So I've already started through a couple of the conferences that we usually start with. Right now, the first score that I'm looking for tonight that I have not been able to locate is Winnebago and North Boone. Last I saw, it was a 56-53 game, so that might explain why I have not been able to find the score. So that's the first score tonight. I've gotten all the scores out of the Apollo. I've gotten all the scores out of the Big 12 and the Black Diamond. So moving down the list a little bit at a time. Interesting night so far from what we've been able to find out. A lot of interesting, intriguing games out there. Obviously, some big surprises. I think the biggest one that at least struck to my eye would be Rochester's margin of win over Batavia. That definitely was a big surprise to me. So right now I'm going right through the Cahokia, and the next score that I'm looking for is Carlisle and Pinckneyville. That is that situation. So just a couple of scores so far that I'm missing, but I've been able to get quite a few of them through the early part of the early part of the evening, I should say. We do have a lot of them that were still out, but and my dog is chattering away with us. So that is where we're at. But okay, hold on a second here. Okay. So seeing some questions about what happened with Batavia, huge letdown. They just got behind like right out of the bat. I mean, they were buried. That was one of the things that, was the issue there. It felt like they were down 28-0 before we even got started. So that was a tough hole to dig out of, and obviously they didn't do it. And Rochester has proven over a long period of time to be a very, very difficult place to play. So that held true tonight. Definitely definitely one of those games that I was not expecting to go the way that they did. So right now I'm missing 3 scores as we kind of move together through the summaries. The scores that I'm missing are Winnebago and North Boone, Carlisle and Pinckneyville, and Jerseyville, Jersey, and East Alton, Wood River. So those are a lot of them out of the general Chicagoland area that we have not been able to find yet. So I'm going to try to sort some other stuff out here so I don't have that. I checked all those. I didn't see much of the East St. Louis game. I saw a little bit of it at the end, but East St. Louis still a good team. I mean, obviously a big blow finding out that Myson Johnson-Cook is out with a broken collarbone. Probably will miss the rest of the season. I don't know for sure what their plan will be. I mean, conceivably, maybe he could come back for the postseason, but odds are we will not see him for the rest of the regular season. But as we discovered in week 1, he didn't play the entire second half, and East St. Louis still was very, very good, and obviously went down and played a very good team in Florida and American Heritage out of Plantation, and hung right there till the end. So I wouldn't bury them just yet. Interesting question about Glenbard East. Yeah, I'm a little surprised right now, especially with tonight not being able to score. That's a team that usually puts up some points. I think their one saving grace is that their conference still hasn't really established, has a lot of established teams in it. So over the second half of the season, they might be able to regroup. But as far as where they're, obviously the typical, 9-0, 8-1 season is now out of the realm of possibility for them. So, obviously with the start. So yeah, definitely kind of strange seeing them sitting where they're at right now. Did anybody see a Loyola final from tonight? I never did see it. I know they were winning. I don't know if they finished it off. So I'm going to check a couple places here, see if I can find it real quick. Somebody was score updating tonight. Now I'm trying to figure it out. Okay. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that 54-14 score for Maine South over Warren. 61-56. That is one I've been looking for. Thank you. North Boone and Winnebago. Okay, that was a wild one, obviously. That was a good grinded out win tonight for Fenwick. Silver Fox, you ask a very good question. I don't know if I could give you my top 5 without thinking about this for a while. I made reference to the ones in Iroquois West. They are my favorite ones that are close to me. I really, really like those. Those are great. So a long time ago when I was covering that area, the coach gave me some to take back to the office staff, and the office staff was lucky that they got any of them. I may have had 3 or 4 of them on my way back in the car. So, but there's a lot of good ones out there, at least in my experience. So it would be tough for me to call. Yeah, Lena Winslow 0-2, but an understandable 0-2. Obviously the Bennett loss last week. We talked a little bit about that, and then the loss tonight to Darlington, Wisconsin. Darlington, Wisconsin is basically the Lena Winslow of Wisconsin, a small school powerhouse. So, definitely one of those things that goes that way. So thank you once again for the North Boone Winnebago score. I definitely was looking for that. Obviously with that kind of score, I'm sure it probably was late getting to finals. So here we go. So that one. So put that one in there, cross that one off the list. So right now, so far, the scores that I'm missing are Carlisle and Pinckneyville, Jerseyville, Jersey, and Wood River, East Alton. Loyola 33-19. Thank you. I hadn't found that one yet. So nice win for Loyola tonight. That's a consensus top 10 program in Indiana. So not too shabby of a win there. Now I am looking for. There's the Carmel score. 39. You were at the Clifton during the it was Clifton during the 8 semifinals 2 against IC. Still looks. Yeah, I was in the press box for that game. I remember that game. So, yep. Maroa Forsyth 55-6. Yeah, I know. Southward Suburbs standing up right now. Lincoln Way East over Brother Rice last week. Sandburg over Montini tonight. This is so far the Southwest Suburbs standing tall. So Carmel was a winner over Lake Forest. Let's go down here and do that one. Okay. So now, yeah, right now I'm in the Chicago Catholic League. I'm catching up with the scores that I missed tonight. I think I got most of them. Marmion and Lincoln Park. I don't remember seeing that one. Marmion 34-14. Okay, so that's a nice bounce back for Marmion. Marmion, I'm interested in Marmion for one reason. They have a multiplier waiver. So if they can get themselves into the playoffs, they drop from 6 to 4A, and I think they become a pretty interesting team to at least monitor. So that's kind of why I'm keeping an eye on them, just to make sure that they get to the win level that they need, because, like I said, they're going to drop 2 classes come for the playoffs. So Carlisle 47-7. Thank you very much. That is definitely one that I was having trouble finding. So right now, the only one that I don't have is Jersey and Wood River East Alton so far of the games that I've managed to research. So Carlisle 47-7. So let's pop that in here. Pinckneyville goes down. 747. Okay. All right. So I was out at Lincoln Way. I was out at Kankakee Lincoln Way East tonight. That was an interesting game. Kankakee, I believe Naz was 27-7 in favor of Naz. 27-3. I'm sorry. Good win for Nazareth. So now I'm checking on other Catholic League scores. Interesting. I'm looking at it, kind of giving an overview here. Looks like very few Catholic League teams lost, but the ones that did were pretty notable. Obviously, the Montini loss, that's one. There are several going tomorrow. But Bennett, St. Lawrence, and St. Viator, I believe, were the – I didn't see that score either. Okay. Has anybody seen a Plainfield East De La Salle score? That's one that I haven't seen anywhere. Okay. So I am working down here into the Catholic League. St. Patrick won 56-14. 14-56. Okay, Marian Catholic and Morton. Marian Catholic gets beat 48-0. Plainfield East 57-12. Thank you, sir. Plainfield East out to 2-0 record. Jersey 49-0. That makes sense. I just hadn't seen it. Thank you very much. Yeah, St. Charles East off to a 2-0 start. You're right. I think that has been a while. That's both St. Charles teams have started the season 2-0. Okay. So now we're through the Catholic League. Well, Plainfield Central got beat tonight. I was going to say I thought for a second there that all 4 Plainfield teams were 4-0, but Plainfield Central was beaten tonight by Mateo Valley. So that is not the case. Okay. So now I'm moving out of the Catholic League and into the Central State 8. I think I've got quite a few scores already. I do. So now I'm going to look up. Yeah, there was a couple of things. JCA sometimes has some conflicts with St. Francis and Memorial Stadium. So I think that was the reason that game was played in the evening. I'm not sure. I think maybe soccer games were involved in them not having the availability of the field. So that's why that game is going on Saturday night instead of Saturday afternoon. I actually don't mind because that might give me a chance to go watch at least a half of that because I'm going to go to Dushan Field tomorrow and watch Glenbard West and St. Rita in the afternoon. So on my way home, I might stop by and watch that one too. So I'm not complaining. So Quincy Notre Dame over Carbondale. Yep. Okay. So then the rest of these, that's a Saturday game. And now I'm going to Scuda beats Southeast 53-6. Okay. Moving down here to get that one in. I want to say about 30% of the scores are in at this point in time, maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, that is right, Brian. They're currently working on the new stadium on campus at Joliet Catholic. It's actually going up pretty fast, to my understanding. I haven't gone by there in a little while, but yeah, they will be in their own facility next year at this time. I'm pretty confident. So that's a good thing for them. Right now, the only score, actually, I don't have any scores as I work kind of alphabetically through the conferences. So right now, everything that I've come across, I've been able to find so far. So I'm moving now. That will change here in a few minutes because I'm about to get to the Chicago Public League. So okay. All right. So, and yes, I do have one that I'm looking for. Niles West and Niles North is one that I need. Niles West and Niles North is the only one that I am missing currently. As I work my way through Central Suburban Conference. Okay, I also have another one, West Chicago, Maine East. Oh, just found that one. Never mind. So Niles North and Niles West is currently the only missing score. Okay. So, Niles North, Niles West, Vernon Hills and Lakes. Let's see if we got that one. We're also missing that one, Vernon Hills and Lakes. Yeah, indeed. Congratulations to Jeff Rinks on his 300th coaching victory tonight. I've known him for a very, very long time. I have covered probably hundreds of Wilmington games, so wonderful to see a good guy get that kind of accomplishment. Just a really class act. Okay. So I'm checking all my sources right now, trying to find a couple of these Central Suburban scores before I move on. I don't have Niles North and Niles West. Okay. So Glenbrook South loses to Fremd. All right. So right now, just two scores that I have not been able to find. I know I saw that one somewhere. Aurora Christian and Elgin. Matt and I were talking about it, but I can't remember the final, 49-0. Okay. So Aurora Christian goes there. Elgin down here. All right. So now I believe we're moving into the Chicago Public League. All right, so now I have the first public league school that I'm missing, Prosser and North Lawndale. So 3 games total, Niles West, Niles North, Vernon Hills Lakes, and Prosser and North Lawndale. Okay. So I'm going to check a couple sources now to see if I can find the North Lawndale Prosser score before I move on. Okay, so can't find that. So now we're at 3 games. All right. And then I'm going to go all the way down to DeKalb and 49-0 for DeKalb. All right. So let's go down there and find them. Okay. So moving further down, Hubbard and Military Bronzeville. 38-0 for Hubbard. Okay. Now Richards and Julian. I don't remember seeing that one anywhere. That's tomorrow. Okay. That had the wrong date on that one. Okay. All right. So now I know Thornton won that game. I saw it earlier. 69-0. Yep. Okay. Okay. So then Harvey Thornton is down here. Right now, just like I said, working through the Chicago Public League. Prosser and North Lawndale is the only public league school that I have not been able to find tonight. Two other scores, Niles West, Niles North, and Vernon Hills and Lakes are the missing scores from tonight. Boy, I'm starting to be a little bit of a believer in Homewood Flossmoor. Really impressive win in week 1. Another solid win tonight. Hasn't allowed a point yet. Obviously, really good defensively, led by Wisconsin signee David Hill on the defensive line. Just a really nice player. Yeah, the last couple years, it feels like Homewood Flossmoor's had some trouble getting some continuity on offense, but it certainly seems like they've figured out some stuff so far. So definitely a team to keep an eye on right now. Troy McAllister, the former Phillips coach, really seems to have gotten the team going in the direction that they need to get going in. So now I'm looking for Taft and Conant. I haven't seen that one. So that puts us at 4 games. Niles West, Niles North, Vernon Hills Lakes, Prosser, North Lawndale, Taft, and Conant. So I know Von Steuben won tonight. I don't remember the score. 37-0. So, all right. So I think I'm out of the public league now. I think so. No, not yet. Still got a couple more to look up. All right, Bowen. All right, there's another one and another public league score, Bowen and Solorio. So now we're at 5 games. Public league proving pesky this evening. Evergreen Park 63-6 over Longwood. Okay. So let's go down here. We are moving along. Okay. All right. So I got all the Duquesne scores in, all the DuPage scores in, all the Fox Valley scores in, all the Heart of Illinois. Boy, moving along good tonight. Okay. So then that's a Saturday game. Now we are, and I haven't seen this one anywhere, Walter Christian and Elmwood Park. So the list is growing a little bit here. We've got Niles West, Niles North, Vernon Hills Lakes, Prosser North Lawndale, Taft Conant, Bowen Solorio, Walter Christian, Elmwood Park. Those are the games that we're missing right now. So now I am looking for Ottawa Marquette and Madison. That's a good one. Homewood Flossmoor, Lincoln Way East. Absolutely a good one to look out for. Okay, so Ottawa Marquette and Madison goes to the list. Conant, 21-0. Thank you. right, so let's put that one back in here. Mm. 21-0. Okay. So, done with that, done with that, done with that. Madison, Ottawa, Marquette was nowhere to be found. Now we're going to out of state because I need a Woodstock North score. They won 27-15. Got that one. And now I need a Woodstock score, which I don't think I have. Okay, 6 games right now that we're looking for. And I think it's going to be 7 here in a minute. Okay, so Clinton, Wisconsin, and Woodstock goes to the list. So 6 games. Niles West, Niles North. 7 games. Niles West, Niles North. Vernon Hills Lakes. Prosser, North Lawndale. Bowen, Solorio. Walter Christian, Evergreen Park, or Elmwood Park. Ottawa, Marquette, Madison. Clinton, Wisconsin, and Woodstock. Okay. So, moving along pretty good. Coach Joe versus Edgy in an Oklahoma drill. Who wins? Someone's cardiologist. Let's see. Morton, 48-0 over Marian Catholic. That didn't get put in there the other way. So that's done. Moving along quite nicely now. Okay, so Zion, Benton, and Rich Township is the next one that I'm searching for. Yep, don't have that one either. So Zion, Benton, and Rich Township adds to the list. Missing quite a few more than I would like so far tonight, but that's okay. All right, so now we're going to go to the Northern Illinois Conference. I would say we're probably in the neighborhood of about needing 60 to 75 games somewhere statewide, I think at this point, need to be inputted. So, the Northern Illinois. Harlem over Belvedere, 42-7. Okay, missing a lot from the Northern Illinois 10 Conference. Belvedere North and Guilford. Freeport and Rockford Boylan. That has been a never-ending rumor. They have until September 1st, East St. Louis or any other school has the option of declaring to play up in a higher classification if they choose to. It's been rumored all off-season that East St. Louis was going to go from 6 to 7. Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I'll go back and correct it as not marked. Thank you. So Conant and Taft is still on the list. Okay. So If anybody's got some insight on the Northern Illinois 10 from tonight, we're missing a bunch of those. I got a partial Hononegah score against Rockford Auburn, but I don't have a final. Just missing, like I said, getting a little frustrated here. There's a lot of scores that I usually don't have trouble finding, and I am having those problems tonight. Almost in double digits in scores that I'm missing. Jefferson with a 22-16, whatever, East. So let's run down the list real quick here. Will we ever see a Lincoln Way East St. Louis game? That's an interesting question. I think the prospects, as long as we're an open, a larger field in playoffs, might increase the likelihood of that possibly happening. But as of right now, Lincoln Way East has to schedule 2 non-conference games a year. And I think if their opponents are willing, they will stay with what they have. And East St. Louis, it becomes a little tricky because they like to play that national schedule. So definitely gets a little out there. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here for a second and just run down the list of scores that we're missing, because I'm getting really close to having most everything put in that I need. So Niles West, Niles North, Vernon Hills and Lakes, Prosser and North Lawndale, Bowen and Solorio, Walther Christian and Elmwood Park, Ottawa Marquette and Madison, Clinton, Wisconsin and Woodstock, Zion Benton and Rich, Belvedere North and Guilford, Freeport and Rockford Boylan, Conant and Taft, Hononegah and Rockford Auburn. Those are the scores that I do not have right now. So I know for a fact that I saw this score on Twitter earlier. So I don't have a final on Riverton and Pittsfield. So if anybody has that, that would be appreciated. Thank you for the Woodstock score. Okay, Guilford, these are starting to come in now. Thank you, guys. Guilford wins 28-7. Belvedere North struggling a little bit this year out of the box. That's interesting. Woodstock wins 34-0. Okay. So Riverton wins 42-38. So that gets the last of my Sangamo scores that I was missing. Okay. So we can go all the way down here to, that's a Saturday game. Oh my goodness, we are flying through Rich Township, Zion Benton. We were missing that on first reference. Now I'm all the way down to O'Fallon. Okay, so O'Fallon and St. Charles Howell out of Missouri is the next one that I'm missing. And check a couple places on that before I give up on it. Yep, do not see that. So O'Fallon I'm missing. Howell, we can cross off Belvedere and Guilford, and we can cross off Woodstock and Clinton, Wisconsin. So right now we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 scores missing. So I'm going to go down here. That's a Saturday game. Elmwood Park, Walther Christian. I'm still missing that one. Okay, that's a Saturday game. Okay. All right. So I have gotten all the games in that I can possibly find. And now I'm just down to that list of games that I ran through before. O'Fallon wins 27-26. So that puts us at 10 games that are missing from tonight. All right. Okay, so let's look through the group one more time, and I'm going to check each one of these games individually. All right, so that's not there. That's not there. That's not on this list. That's not there. That's not there. And that one's gone now. So, Niles North, Niles West, Vernon Hills and Lakes, Prosser and North Lawndale. Okay. So, down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games and have no more research to do. I have the Oakwood. I wouldn't argue. I don't know if East St. Louis would even argue that maybe they shouldn't be an 8A. So, okay. So now I'm going to do a little bit more digging, see if I can find some of these missing scores. So I'm going to check over here. I'm going to go off. I probably won't be pointing directly at the camera here for a few minutes. I'm going to give these a couple more checks in a couple more places. See if I can find any of these 10 missing games. That seems like a lot. Usually I'll give up when I have like 2 or 3 here. So I'm going to try a few more places just to see if I can catch them. Not there. Not there. Okay, so I cannot find Niles North and Niles West everywhere that I looked. I do have Prospect in St. Lawrence. Thank you, though. Okay, so I tried Niles North and Niles West everywhere I could think of and can't find it. So, and Vernon Hills and Lakes, I think, is going to meet the same fate. Okay, don't have that one either. So Prosser and North Lawndale. Ottawa, Marquette, and Madison. There's one that I'm missing. Thank you. Okay. So Ottawa, Marquette, and Madison. Trims that list down to 9. Okay. Prosser. Let's see if I can find Prosser. Prosser in North Lawndale. There's Red North. Nope. Didn't find it there. Didn't find it there. Nope. Okay, nothing for those. So now I'm going to go down here. Bowen and Solorio. This is a game that, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if it was held. Solorio didn't play last week. I never found out why. So I'm not entirely convinced that they are active. But I've gotten no word that they're not. So okay, I'm checking a few more places just to see if I can scare that score up. Nope. Cannot find that one. So I'm going to start here for Walter Christian and Elmwood Park. There it is. Elmwood Park, 25-6. That snaps a very long losing streak for Elmwood Park. That was the one reason why I was kind of interested in seeing what happened there. I think it's over 2 seasons since Elmwood Park has won a game. Let's cross that one off the list. So down to 8. Then we're going to go all the way down to Zion Benton, see if I can figure that one out. Fun week 2. A lot of interesting stories out there. Teams that are 2-0 and some surprising teams that are 0-2. Trying to wrap my head around that. Zion Benton 47-20. Okay, thank you. Rich Township. This is that one. 20-47. Okay, so that one gets scratched off. Now I'm looking for Freeport and Rockford Boylan. (53-12) Ottawa Marquette over Madison. Freeport 21-20. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go take a look and see if we can dig out Conant and Taft. Onondaga Auburn got found too. So we are down to 5 now. Okay, Conant, Mid-Suburban West. Okay, so I can't find those. Oh, Conan 126.7. Thanks, Weather. Got it. Okay. So I'm just going to check and make sure that my data is all in there right. Yep. Okay. So missing 4 games from tonight. I will accept that as a victory. Hopefully I'll be able to track those down tomorrow morning. But I think that's going to wrap us up tonight. I'm just going to do some quick looks at some things that interest me before we say goodbye for the evening. We currently have, I'm running it down here, 142 teams that have reached the 2-0 mark. So that's a good start for those teams. Some surprising names on that list, some not so surprising names on that list. And like I said before, there's quite a few Saturday games tomorrow, so that list will probably grow a little bit longer. Does Dixon beat Byron next week? I make it a habit to not bet against Byron. So I'm not going to. I'm still going to pick Byron. I know, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but there are 121 0-2 teams at this point in time. There's some interesting names on that list as well. So going to dig down deep on some of those and try to decide whether or not those situations are turnaroundable. So interesting stuff that came out of tonight. Relatively healthy slate tomorrow, but we'll have more data throughout the week at Friday Night Drive. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Hope you had a good week too, and look forward to week 3. Thanks a lot. Good night.